people go? How could people go for that? You know, I mean.
All right, but in the face of that, how do you remain optimistic? You know, there's 48.
It's hard,
There's
man.
48 wars going on now.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to remain optimistic.
And yet the music is joyful. Even "Please Don't Murder Me," you know,
yeah.
It's a joyful song.
Well, that's it. You know, I mean, well, when things are at that level, there's kind of a beauty to the simplicity of it. I wrote that song got written when the Zodiac Killer was out murdering in San Francisco.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it was one of those things. Like it's one of those things that was like every night I was coming home from the studio, and it was that thing. I'd stop at an intersection, you know, and look around, and if a car pulled up, you know, it's like, oh, this is it, you know, this is it. I'm gonna die now, you know. It's
a lot of people knew that, and so they would pull up a car just to scare people.
Oh, sure, you know. So it was like a game. Every night I was conscious of that thing, you know, and it got to be that refrain got to be so real to me, you know, like please don't murder me, please don't murder me.
Oh, so it came out of a literal truth. It wasn't even metaphorical.
No, not really. I mean, yeah. It was a coincidence in a way, you know. But there it was. It was also the truth at the moment, you know.
And then you extend that logically. The statistics show that young people, more than half of young people today, think there might be a nuclear war in their lifetime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
But they also are concerned about whether they want to have career or marriage.
Right.
Well, I guess if there's going to be a nuclear war...
Well, you got to do something in the meantime, you know.
Right, there's not time for both.
Not really. Right, not really. Yeah, right. It does. I mean, the nuclear war thing, it seems like that's real. That's easy to see because... It's true that most of the energy is still going to the old arms buildup. It hasn't changed a bit, not a bit, you know. It's more horrible than ever. And not only that, but we haven't done anything to get rid of all the old shit, you know. So it's, you know, that thing has been growing and growing and growing for the last 30, 40 years, and it looks bad. I mean, if you're a kid now, that's what you see, you know. That's the immediate past. All you see is there's been 40 years of this shit. Nobody has made any serious effort to turn it in any direction. You know, I mean, I'm scared too, frankly.
It used to be that was one weird old man with a sign saying the world is coming to an end. And now you get them embossed on bumper stickers.
Right.
But still, you know the parable of the 100th monkey.
I don't think so.
Oh well, this is the
100th monkey.
A kind of New Age parable about these monkeys on an island that have subsisted on sweet potatoes, and they eat them with the sand.
Oh, I know about those monkeys. Yeah, I know. That's a real thing, those monkeys. They wash them in the salt water.
But one monkey started it. One young
That's
monkey.
right, a young monkey, a young female monkey.
Oh, you knew it was female?
Yes.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's a female monkey. I saw the thing on TV that ran it down.
Oh, so that's important because then other young monkeys started following suit.
Yeah.
And when there was a certain critical mass, and that's the metaphor of the 100th monkey, it could have been the 97th or the 108th, when that enough young monkeys were doing it, then the first adult monkey started doing it.
Oh, I see.
And so it's reverse generational influence.
Oh, I see.
Then other adult monkeys started doing it.
Oh, there was a moment then when they... Yeah, I remember them saying that there was like a moment when all of a sudden it seemed as though all the monkeys knew how to do it.
And then even on adjoining islands...
That's right. It was like all over. Suddenly it was in the culture.
A psychic connection. And so
yeah.
how that applies to human behavior
is
that each one of us, no matter what we're doing on an individual or a group basis, if we take ourselves as the 100th monkey that we represent symbolically,
right on,
we could be the one to change the tide.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah.
It always did seem like it was a matter of numbers. I mean, like you really only needed a percentage of, people kind of pulling psychically in the right direction in order to just avoid the worst possible scenario. Yeah. And it always seemed like that the positive had some kind of natural inclination to get the weight. You know, like the destructive doesn't have it lacks destroying things lacks a certain element of organization or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's operating at a disadvantage essentially because the idea of building things always requires some kind of agreement and so forth. The idea of destroying things doesn't require any of that. It's it kind of works against itself in the long run. That's an interesting idea. I believe that idea. I always believed that the psychedelics meant that to me in a certain way. I always felt if enough people got turned on, there would be sort of a consciousness jump of some sort, you know, sort of a paradigm shift in reality somehow.
And I think it's been happening on a
it's been much slower than anybody imagined. I mean, that's kind of the way I've chosen to deal with it philosophically myself to avoid getting too discouraged. You know, in the meantime, just to think of it's going to take a long time.
Do you think that since the roots of the Dead are psychedelic, do you think that affects the structure of a song in particular, or the structure of a concert in terms of the build-up? And
Yeah, I understand the question. It doesn't so much affect the structure of a song, particularly.
Except when you have a free reign in the middle of it.
That's right. And when sometimes a song, well, sometimes some of our songs are big affairs, and some of them are also meant to be opened up. Like to have. They're kind of like loose leaf files. You can open them up and stick things in them. Some of them are arranged that way so that you can sort of contain an experience of what's sort of direct it. And our second half definitely has a shape which if not directly, at least partially inspired by the psychedelic experience as a waveform. You know what I mean? There's a sort of a rise and that. That's the second half for us is the thing of taking chances and going all to pieces,
Right.
and then coming back and reassembling.
And that's the leap of faith of the psychedelics, which is somehow I'll get back to that core.
That's right.
I may make a few convolutions in the process.
Right. You might lose a few pieces.
Right.
Right. But you don't despair about seeing yourself go completely to pieces.
Right.
You don't despair about it. You let it go.
Not only do you let it go, but you find a positive virtue in if I play out of tune, it's just so I have something more to compare.
Absolutely.
In tune too.
Absolutely, right. And we've been doing some interesting things now. The last year or so, actually the last 2 years, we've been doing like our most free form stuff. The stuff that's not really attached to any particular song. It's just free form music. It's not rhythmic. It's not really attached to any musical norms. It's the completely weird shit. We've been doing stuff with that. We've been picking themes for that and saying and thinking of that as being like a painting or a movie, and we've been picking themes. Like I think our most recent theme was Reagan in China was one of our themes. We just do it like that. We take a theme, One time we had the Gaddafi Death Squad was our theme, Sometimes they're terribly detailed, the themes are, but sometimes they're just a broad subject, and we do this when we think about it, when we remember to. It's not hard and fast ruled, but it's made that part of the music at times have some tremendous other level of organization that pulls it together. It makes it really interesting, So and that's like it's like the thing of whether you worry about the world out there, when you're having some kind of personal experience, a psychedelic experience or whatever, anything that's happening in your life, and the world out there, how it affects you, how it sort of colors things that are happening in your trip or whatever, It's like that works kind of that way. The music is like psychedelics in a way. I mean, and there are times even when I swear, I come off the stage and I swear I've been dosed. I mean, I swear to it, but I know I haven't, and it's happened to all of us in the band. I know it. There is some biochemical reality in there that has to do with maybe the loudness of the music, or maybe like the Indians believe, the East Indians believe that intervals in music contain emotional realities. Their music is organized where each interval has like an emotional truth that goes along with it, And so when they're playing your heart, or they're playing a kind of nervous system music. That's the way they believe it, and it feels that way when you hear it too. So there may be those kind of realities in there. They're kicking off some kind of biochemical, brain, subtle brain proteins, changes of that sort.
It could be that because there's certain notes when you reach on the guitar, I'll find my body moving. And when I'm real close to myself, I realize that what I'm doing is I'm producing endorphins.
Absolutely, absolutely right. It's there. I mean, I don't know, but since that work has all been, that work is kind of outre. You know what I mean? Nobody really is delving into that stuff to see is it happening or is it not happening. Who knows how the cause and effect realities work?
But everybody needs a metaphor for the mystery, So people who hear that 100th monkey story say, well, the first young female monkey the first one to wash with the sweet potato probably was an Aries, and they have a pioneer spirit.
Oh, gotcha, right.
Something to measure.
Right, you are right. What was that sweet potato saying to that monkey?
That's right.
Right.
Help me reach my sweet potato hoop.
right, help me get the skin off.
When the truth is that those monkeys needed all of that sand on the sweet potatoes for roughage in their diet.
Yeah, right.
Then these meddling anthropologists come along.
Right.
Now there's islands full of constipated monkeys.
Right. It's amazing.
What will we do about them next?
Yeah.
What I want to get back to that image you said of getting a theme for how close to a gig will that happen?
Just before, because it's like current events.
Just to kind of discuss it.
Yeah, like whoever gets the idea, we'll just say it. Hey, tonight it's blah, and it's not that often that we in fact we've never had any kind of we don't argue about it or anything.
Right,
it's like
right.
Somebody has an inspiration,
Right.
So tonight it's the Bongo Straits, 1940, or something, whatever it is,
Right.
Pearl Harbor, anything. Right. And we take it from just what's in the air, like something in the news, maybe it's somebody famous's birthday, any of those kind of things.
All right, but when you do Ronald Reagan visiting China, will there be some little Oriental touch to the music that comes out of that?
Yeah. If you know what our theme is and beforehand, and we used to tell the equipment guys,
right.
and then they would listen to see if they could hear any of it, And there'll be a little of it there because there's always the thing of wanting to paint pictures, doing something that's more or less literal. But a lot of times it doesn't come off that way, but it does. What it does do is provide this invisible infrastructure. You know what I mean? Which everybody can interpret freely. It's a neat thing, because everybody can interpret it however they want, and it still provides a kind of a centerpiece for us all to look at. It's a neat way to do it. It's provided for us more interesting shapes for that. Non-formed music, that shapeless music.
Right.
It's provided like all kinds of interesting new shapes. Using that, before we started using that idea, that music would tend to get sometimes it would get dispersed so far that you couldn't relate to it at all, and sometimes it would make an effort to turn into something real fast, something familiar real fast, So it would hover between these two poles, and there was something not quite juicy about it, They were not quite as promising as it could be.
Well, because some things have more elements. If you were to take as a theme the Russians having dropped out of the Olympics, you can get
that might be our theme tonight.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I get subliminal credit.
Yeah, right. Sure, I'll use that. In fact, I'll mention that to the boys. That'll be good.
Yeah, because then you can get in, theme like a Russian Kazutsky and the theme from Rocky combined.
Yeah, that's right. Little sports figures, and sounds, like the Cossacks and the horses on the steppes, frozen, crunching snow, and I mean, the nice thing about just sounds is you can paint pictures of anything, weather, and you can use any turn of any frame, Well,
that was always the advantage of radio over TV. On radio, they'd say, well, here we are on the moon. And
right.
you kind of imagine stuff. But on TV, you say that, you have to have a whole set built.
That's right, exactly. Radio used to be so great for that element of listener participation. That was beautiful. That was neat.
Well, all right, well, now we're doing this on radio now. People are listening to this. You can paint, what picture would you paint for them to see?
For them to see? Well, let's see. We should be, on enormous divans, with silk cushions all over, surrounded by nubile maidens feeding us peeled grapes and
you came up with that one.
Bubbling hookahs. And
you didn't have to think about that one very much, did you?
No. It's just all I had to do was tune into rock and roll reality.
Right.
That rock and roll place where things happen. Like interviews.
And so as your listeners look around the room there, you'll see there are some young female monkeys washing sweet potatoes
right.
in the saltwater bathtub.
There's the wreckage of Jeeps over there,
Well, is there a dynamic that goes with the Dead on stage, a dynamic between the equipment people and the band and the stage manager?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, the only thing I can compare it to is being in public school and taking the braid of hair and the girl in front of you and sticking it in the inkwell.
Right, you are. Oh, yeah, right. Well, they're free to heckle us, It's what you do when you're, when you're in a comfortable situation, which is very familiar to you, and you know that you have that kind of freedom. You know, you have that kind of looseness. It's what you do. That's all.
But
the audience even does it when they're close enough.
Right.
I mean, physically close enough. You know, so when the stage is small enough, you know, the people down in front get right into it too. You know, they jump right on that too. I love that stuff myself.
But I'm wondering if it's functional. If there's a certain subtle tension created that affects the music as much as.
Well, I think it might be functional in a lot of ways. For me, it helps to normalize the situation, because I always am battling stage fright, which is like my primal enemy. You know, it's like it's always working on me at some level, and I've always had to do a lot of things to get myself to be there on stage, to not be in a flight or fight space. You know what I mean? I've always had to settle myself. So the thing is that anything that lends itself toward sort of normalizing the situation helps me psychologically, personally. So that kind of stuff, just that the accessibility of it, the routine quality,
the trust behind it, I think, is important.
All that stuff is those things are all those kind of things. They really help me on that level, just kind of centering myself. I mean, I have a tremendous battle with that. That's always.
Do you have any rituals that you go through?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my whole thing is like, I mean, if I were to translate myself into superstition, I mean, I would have rabbit's feet and, well, you know what I mean? I'd be festooned with that stuff. Yeah. My whole routine before going into a show is a ritual designed to tunnel vision myself away from that stage fright thing. It permeates me. It really does. It's a terrible enemy of mine. And it hasn't gotten better over the years either. You know, I always hoped it would. But it's a funny thing, though. There's a demarcation moment somewhere that on stage, maybe after the third song, maybe the fourth, you know, somewhere along the line, when all of a sudden that just disappears and it's gone. It's as though it never were there. And from then on, it's totally cool. But every night, it's the same thing. Every day before a tour, the night before leaving, I can't sleep that night. I'm so used to it now, you know, because I'm so nervous and jacked up from the anticipation of that first show.
Right.
It's an amazing thing. It has such power. It's, you know, and I don't think it's not a phobia really, because I think I'd miss it if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, it in a way, and it's not exactly unpleasurable either, you know. And there's something to that tension, you know. But if it were just a little worse, I might go to a psychiatrist or something. You know what I mean? I might make some effort to adjust myself to do something about it, because it's one of those things that's almost uncomfortable. As it is, it's got just enough power where I've convinced myself that it's helpful. You know, so you know, it's that kind of thing. But that's one of those things that people, I don't know whether people remember it or not, but the thing of just getting in front of a lot of people is a seed. You know, it's tough to do.
Oh, you know, the best description I've heard of that, and it applies as a filter to see a lot of human behavior through, is a phrase in a novel by Aldous Huxley. It's the only phrase I read in the whole book, because I didn't want to, everything else would have been anticlimactic. The phrase was excruciating orgasms of self-assertion.
Oh boy, oh boy, you said it.
And that's what it is. You know?
Yeah, oh boy, yeah.
Okay, well, do you have any concluding statements, like always leave your shower curtain inside the tub?
That sounds good to me.
I think it's...
And keep your feet out of the toilet.
Right, because those constipated monkeys need it in case they get that bootleg X-Lax.
Those other sweet potatoes.
Although
black
you know,
market
it is a
taters.
good way to wash your feet.
I guess it probably is, that running water. It'd probably actually be pretty refreshing, too, on a hot day.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, New Yorkers, get in your toilets right now.
Right. If you want to put your feet in the toilet, remember, what's a democracy for?
That's right.